My name is Marielle, I'm 30 years old, and I work as a children's book author. 8 years ago, I married my husband, Marcus. He was 9 years older than me. Marcus absolutely adored me and tried to give me everything I could ever need or want. For the first 5 years we were married, my life was basically a fairy tale. I had this amazing husband who loved me. We had financial stability. My career as a children's book author was taking off, and I was becoming more popular. Everything felt perfect. Well, almost perfect. There was one thing that bothered me back then. My father-in-law, Gerald. He had this obsession with us having kids. He would constantly complain that his eldest son had no children. He would look at our Labrador, Cooper, with total disgust. We had adopted Cooper as a puppy from a shelter. We loved him. But Gerald would grumble that a dog was not a child and he couldn't leave his inheritance to a dog. Marcus and I weren't in any rush. We wanted to live for ourselves for a while. We had a house in Havenbrook, Vermont, the one Marcus had taken out a mortgage on. We spent our time working on the front garden together. Marcus loved roses. He planted several rose bushes in the flower bed. I used to giggle at how gentle and tender he was with those flowers. He even gave each bush a nickname. It was adorable. Then everything changed. Misfortune hit us out of nowhere. One morning Marcus woke up feeling really sick. His nose started bleeding and wouldn't stop. We rushed to the hospital. They ran tests. The doctors diagnosed him with an aggressive form of cancer. For 3 years we fought that disease together. He had surgeries. He went through chemotherapy. We tried everything. Nothing worked. In the end, Marcus died in the hospital while holding my hand. His funeral happened in the morning. I was devastated, broken in ways I cannot describe. I was deeply involved in organizing everything. I wasn't paying attention to where the guests went or what they were doing. It wasn't until Marcus's aunt approached me that I noticed something strange. She pointed out that Gerald and his other children had only shown up for the very beginning of the ceremony, then quickly vanished. Marcus's brother Darian and his sister Elora had disappeared too. I brushed it off. I told the aunt that maybe Gerald simply didn't want to be around his unloved daughter-in-law for too long. After the funeral ended, I went home. All I wanted was to rest, to grieve alone, to say goodbye to Marcus in my own way. But when I pulled up to the house, the first thing I saw was a moving truck parked in the driveway. Standing next to it were Gerald, Darian, and Elora, still wearing their funeral clothes. They hadn't even bothered to change. I sat there confused. Then I saw movers getting out of the truck, carrying boxes, carrying furniture, heading toward my house. A house. The house Marcus and I built our life in. Cooper was outside, usually the friendliest, calmest dog ever. But suddenly he became alert. His fur rose. His tail dropped. He let out a low growl I had never heard before. When a mover stepped onto the porch carrying a box, Cooper barked sharply, blocking the door. He didn't attack anyone, but he stood there, teeth bared, refusing to let anyone through. I jumped out of my car. What the hell is going on here? Gerald turned, face cold. This property now returns to the Blood family. Pack your things. Elora stepped forward, looked me dead in the eyes. We're just taking back what belongs to our family. Then Darian walked up, patted my shoulder like we were old buddies. Better not make a scene. We'll pay you for your share. I stared at them. Marcus had just been buried this morning. And now they were trying to kick me out of my home. Shock numbed my brain. Then clarity hit. I understood exactly what they were doing. I calmed myself, stood tall and said, "You forgot one important detail." I walked into the house with Cooper at my side. I went to our office and pulled out a folder. Inside, copies of the house documents, our marriage certificate, an envelope containing Marcus's will. Marcus had named me his sole heir. A year before he died, Marcus, knowing exactly how his father treated me, had gone to a notary and made a will. He had even recorded a video message for anyone who might try to contest it. I walked back outside and showed Gerald the documents. "Take the belongings back out. Now, Gerald's face turned red, boiling red. He started shouting, "You're not blood family. You didn't even give my son a child. You don't deserve this house." Those words hurt more than anything he could have said. I was grieving my husband, and now this man was throwing my childlessness in my face. Snap. I am the person he chose. This conflict wasn't new, just resurrected. A year earlier, during one of Marcus's remission periods, Gerald had suggested Marcus transfer the house to the family. Marcus had raised his voice at his father for the first time ever. He banned Gerald from entering the house without calling first. And now Marcus was gone, and Gerald was worse than ever. Called the police. They arrived quickly. I showed them the will and ownership documents. In front of the officers, Gerald and his children backed down. They had no choice. The movers reloaded everything back into the truck. Gerald glared at me but said nothing. After they left, I knew it wasn't over. A week later, an official letter arrived from a lawyer. It was a demand for repayment of a loan. $96,500. This was supposedly money I had borrowed for Marcus's treatment. When I first read that letter, I actually laughed. A bitter laugh, the kind that comes from shock and exhaustion. There was no official loan agreement, no contract, no signed document. All that existed was a bank transfer from Gerald with a note. Family assistance. During the period when Marcus was sick, our insurance didn't cover the advanced treatment he needed. We were desperate. I had turned to Marcus's family for help. Gerald had given us that money, but it was never discussed as a loan. He had called it assistance, help for his dying son. Now he wanted it back, with interest. I didn't have the emotional strength for a civil court battle. Gerald would make my life miserable if I didn't pay. I needed to solve this quickly. I began going through all the property Marcus had left behind, searching for something I could sell. That's when I found it. Paperwork for a vintage Hulkamer motorcycle, a rare, restored model Marcus had bought for himself on his 35th birthday. He had been thrilled, but he never rode it much because he got sick soon after buying it. The motorcycle wasn't in our garage. It wasn't in our storage shed. Gerald had it. He was a huge motorcycle collector, just like Marcus had been. Early on, he had asked Marcus if he could take the bike for a ride. Marcus had said yes. Gerald simply never returned it. I decided I was getting that motorcycle back. I drove to Gerald's house. Not alone. I brought a lawyer with me and positioned myself so that several of his neighbors could watch everything unfold. I knocked on his door and demanded the motorcycle. I showed him the ownership documents, all in Marcus's name, and Marcus's will leaving everything to me. The motorcycle was legally mine. Gerald clenched his jaw so hard I thought his teeth would crack. But he had no choice. With the lawyer and witnesses present, he had to return it. I took the Hulkamer home and listed it for sale the same day. Within 48 hours I had a buyer. A collector from Massachusetts who knew exactly what the motorcycle was worth. I sold it quickly. From that money, I paid off the entire alleged debt to Gerald. $96,500. Every penny. There was even enough left to put toward the mortgage. For months later, something unexpected happened. A deposit appeared in my bank account. A large one. It was the life insurance payout Marcus had set up years earlier. He had listed me as the sole beneficiary. Gerald had tried many times to convince Marcus to change it. He kept insisting Marcus split the beneficiary designation to make things fair for the blood family. Marcus refused every time. Marielle is my family. He told Gerald that directly. Now, because of the insurance payout, I was able to pay off the entire mortgage. The house was mine. Completely mine. No more monthly payments. No more debt. No more fear of losing the only home Marcus and I ever shared. A few weeks later, Gerald unexpectedly came to the house. He stood outside holding something in his hands. He hesitated at the door. He'd take a step forward, then step back. Pace again. I watched from inside. Finally I opened the door. I allowed him to come in, cautiously. Cooper stayed by my side the entire time, watching him with deep mistrust. Gerald started with apologies. He said he had been overwhelmed with grief. He said he had acted horribly because he was devastated that Marcus died without having children. He said he didn't know how to cope or how to apologize properly. Then he handed me what he had been holding. An album of Marcus's childhood photos. Photos I had never seen before. Marcus as a toddler, a teenager, a young man. Pieces of his life before me. I accepted the album. I told Gerald calmly, "Thank you for this. But boundaries remain. You can visit by arrangement. Do not yell at me. Do not make demands. That is how things work from now on." He apologized again. He looked relieved, like he had been carrying a weight for months. Then he left. My life slowly settled into a new routine. I kept writing children's books. My career was growing better than before. I often used Marcus's qualities in my characters. A handsome prince. A gentle gardener. A wise mentor. It helped me keep his memory alive. The roses outside flourished. Those bushes Marcus tended so lovingly thrived under my care. I watered them, pruned them, talked to them the way he used to, remembered every nickname he gave each plant. I wasn't planning to remarry anytime soon. Maybe not ever. My focus was on healing, writing, and caring for the home Marcus and I built. Cooper became my closest companion. I talked to him a lot. We took long walks. Training him gave me something to focus on during the hardest days. I visited Gerald sometimes. Once in a while, I also invited Darian and Elora to the house. Not often, maybe once every few months. The relationship was cordial but not warm. Too much damage had been done. I jokingly started calling myself the defender of the house. After all, I had kept my promise to Marcus. I had protected our home. And I wasn't done yet. The house stood as a reminder of everything Marcus and I built together. Every room held memories. The kitchen where we cooked together. The living room where we watched movies with Cooper curled up between us. The bedroom where we whispered our dreams late into the night. The front garden, now my favorite place. Bright with roses Marcus had planted. Cooper sat beside me during those evenings. He was older now, but still loyal, still protective, still the good boy he had always been. He protected the house when I needed him most. He stood at the door that day and refused to let anyone enter. I would never forget that. My books were doing very well. Children loved my stories. Parents emailed me, thanking me for creating characters their kids connected with. Teachers used my books in classrooms. Felt good, fulfilling to know I was making a positive impact. I believed Marcus would have been proud of me. Proud of how I stood up to his family. Proud of how I kept our home. Proud of the work I was doing. Proud that I held myself together even when grief tried to break me. There were still hard days. Days when grief struck like a wave. Days when I missed Marcus so much it physically hurt. Days when I wished I could hear his voice or feel his hand in mine, even just once more. But I was surviving. I was building a life for myself, one that honored Marcus's memory while still moving forward. It wasn't the life I had planned. It wasn't the fairy tale I believed in during those first 5 years of marriage. But it was mine and I was fighting to keep it. Looking back now, I see how much has changed. The woman I was 8 years ago, that Marielle, was hopeful, soft, naive. She believed love guaranteed happiness. She believed nothing could fall apart if you found the right person. Life taught me otherwise. I learned more from those 3 years of fighting Marcus's cancer than I had learned in my entire life. I learned that love isn't just about happiness. It's about loyalty. It's about holding someone's hand while they're dying. It's about being strong when every part of you wants to collapse. It's about fulfilling promises you're afraid you won't be able to keep. Marcus made me promise something during one of his last lucid days. He was lying in that hospital bed, barely able to speak. His hand squeezed mine with what little strength he had left. He asked me to promise him something important, something he needed to hear before he let go. He made me promise that I would not let his family push me around after he was gone. He knew what they were like. He knew Gerald would try something. He knew Darian and Elora would follow his lead. Marcus told me, "The house is yours. Everything I have is yours. You deserve it." He said I had been there for him through everything. Through the worst days of his life. Through the pain and the fear. Promised him. And when his family appeared with a moving truck on the morning of his funeral, that promise gave me the strength to stand up. That promise made me retrieve the documents. That promise made me call the police. That promise made me defend our home. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if Marcus hadn't made that will. If he hadn't recorded that video message. If he had trusted his family instead of securing everything legally. I would have lost everything. The house. The insurance money. Every piece of security we built together. Marcus protected me even after he was gone. That was real love. Not the fairy tale kind. Not the flowers, not the good days, not the romantic illusions. Real love is the kind that thinks ahead. The kind that makes hard decisions. The kind that defends you even in death. When the mortgage was finally paid off, everything changed. Before that, I lived in constant fear. Fear of money running out. Fear of losing the home. Fear of drowning in grief and bills at the same time. But once the mortgage disappeared, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my soul. I poured more energy into writing. I wrote a new book. One that became my most successful yet. It was about a boy who loses his father and learns to remember him through stories. Children connected with it deeply. Teachers told me it helped kids process grief in gentle, healthy ways. The story wasn't directly about Marcus and me, but little pieces of him were woven into it. A father who loved gardening. A man who was gentle and soft-spoken. A protector who prepared his loved ones for life without him by leaving behind messages and memories. Writing that book was painful. I cried through many chapters. But it was healing. Turn my pain into something useful, something that helped others. Cooper was 8 years old now. We adopted him when he was just a tiny puppy. He had lived through everything with us. The good years, the hospital visits, the long nights, the grief. He was there the day Marcus died. He was there the day Gerald tried to take everything from me. My sweet Labrador transformed into a guard dog that day, sensing danger before I did. Dogs know. They feel it all. Cooper protected our home when I was too numb to react. I take him to the vet regularly. I want him around for as long as possible. He's not just a pet. He's family. He's the last living connection I have to those years with Marcus. The roses in the garden continued to thrive. Last spring they bloomed more beautifully than ever. Vibrant pinks, bold reds, golden yellows. I like to think Marcus would have smiled at that. He put so much love into those bushes. He talked to them like they could understand him. Maybe, in some way they did. I still use the nicknames he gave them. Princess, the pink rose near the front steps. King, the deep red rose by the mailbox. Duchess, the yellow bloom near the side gate. It might seem silly to talk to plants using such names, but it keeps Marcus's presence alive. My relationship with his family is complicated now. We're not close, and we never will be. But we've reached a kind of fragile peace. Gerald visits every few months. We have coffee. We look at old photos. We talk about Marcus, carefully, politely. Darian and Elora visit twice a year. Usually on Marcus's birthday and the anniversary of his death. The conversations are civil but distant. We all remember what happened. Words like that don't disappear. Wounds like that don't heal completely. But I've learned that holding on to anger doesn't help. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't bring Marcus back. So I let them visit with boundaries. With structure. With mutual respect. Gerald never apologized for the cruelest thing he said. That I had failed Marcus by not giving him children. That wound still aches. Marcus and I wanted to wait. We wanted to live for ourselves first. Then he got sick. Children became impossible. But I've made peace with that. My books are my legacy now. The children who read them, who learn from them, they're part of what I leave behind. The house is quiet now. Peaceful, not lonely. I've filled it with my work. My laptop sits in what used to be Marcus's office. Bookshelves line the walls. Manuscripts spread across the dining table. This is my space. My sanctuary. The home I fought to keep. And I am proud of that fight. I didn't back down. I honored Marcus's wish. Kept my promise. People ask me sometimes if I'll ever date again. If I'll get married again. I don't know. Right now, I'm content with the life I've built. Have my work. Have Cooper. I have this house full of memories. Maybe someday I'll be ready for someone new. Or maybe not. Either way, it's okay. Marcus and I had 8 years. 5 beautiful years and 3 painful ones. That's more than many people ever get. I am the defender of this house. The keeper of Marcus's memory. The woman who stood up to his family and won. That is who I am now. And every single day, I keep my promise to him.